There is something that happens inside a woman's brain in the quiet minutes after sex that nobody ever explained to her. A chemical floods the hypothalamus. It travels through the bloodstream. It reaches the amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for emotional memory, and it does something profound. It begins building an attachment, quietly, without permission, without announcement. Scientists have known about this for decades, but somewhere between the laboratory and the classroom, between the research paper and the conversation mothers have with daughters, this information disappeared. This is what oxytocin actually does to a woman's brain, and why understanding it changes everything. Most people have heard of oxytocin. They know it by its nicknames: the love hormone, the cuddle chemical, the bonding drug. They picture something warm and soft, something that makes you want to hold hands and send good morning texts. That description is not wrong, but it is dangerously incomplete. Oxytocin is produced deep inside the hypothalamus, a structure at the base of the brain that regulates the body's most fundamental functions. From there, it is stored and released by the pituitary gland, traveling through the bloodstream to reach organs, tissues, and crucially, other parts of the brain itself. It is released during childbirth, during breastfeeding, during physical touch, during orgasm. And in each of those moments, it is doing something far more complex than simply making you feel warm. Oxytocin is one of a few hormones with a positive feedback loop, meaning that its release triggers actions that cause the pituitary gland to release even more of it. Once it begins, the system amplifies itself. It does not gently suggest connection. It constructs it, layer by layer, with increasing intensity. And in the female brain, it does this more powerfully than in any other context in human biology. For a long time, scientists assumed oxytocin's peak moment was orgasm itself, that the hormone surged at climax, then quickly faded, a brief chemical reward that dissolved back into the bloodstream. A 2025 study published in the Archives of Sexual Behavior changed that understanding entirely. Researchers tracked oxytocin levels in real couples during and after sex, not in a laboratory, but in their own homes. What they found was unexpected. Men's and women's oxytocin levels tended to peak not at orgasm, but 40 minutes after sex. And during that window, partners' hormone levels showed signs of synchronization, rising and falling together in what researchers described as hormonal synchrony. Think about what that means. The biology of bonding does not peak in the heat of the moment. It peaks in the quiet afterward, in the stillness, in the time most people spend on their phones or falling asleep. During sex, oxytocin acts on brain regions responsible for pleasure, reward, and bonding. It activates the nucleus accumbens, which processes reward, and it calms the amygdala, reducing anxiety and opening the brain to emotional connection. Signpost. The body is not done when the moment is. In many ways, it is only beginning. Here is where the science becomes deeply personal. Oxytocin does not behave the same way in a woman's brain as it does in a man's. The differences are not subtle. They are structural, hormonal, and profound. And they explain something millions of women have experienced but never had language for. Research shows that women generally produce more oxytocin, but men's brains are more sensitive to its effects, meaning smaller amounts can trigger strong responses. But crucially, the way oxytocin shapes emotional experience differs significantly between sexes. For women, a surge in oxytocin during intimacy not only enhances tactile pleasure, it deepens the emotional significance of the entire experience. It sustains emotional closeness even after the physical act has ended. And estrogen amplifies all of it. Research confirms that estrogen modulates oxytocin expression in the hypothalamus directly, meaning a woman's hormonal environment at any given moment shapes how intensely oxytocin registers in her brain. This is not sentimentality. This is not emotional weakness. This is a woman's nervous system executing an ancient and precise biological program, one designed to create bonds that last, attach memory to experience, and encode the people we are physically intimate with into our emotional architecture in ways that do not simply dissolve when we walk out of the room. There is a question women have asked for generations, usually quietly, usually alone. Why do I feel so attached to someone I barely know? Why does this feel like more than it was supposed to be? The answer is not a character flaw. It is neurochemistry. Oxytocin signals to the brain, you are safe here. It reduces fear and social anxiety, making women feel more comfortable and emotionally open with intimate partners. At the same moment, it directs attention, heightening the brain's registration of a partner's face, voice, and emotional cues. The amygdala, responsible for emotional memory, encodes this experience with unusual depth. The result is that physical intimacy, for many women, does not feel like a transaction the brain can easily file away. It feels significant because the brain has been chemically instructed to treat it as significant. Research also shows oxytocin amplifies existing sex differences in mate preference, strengthening women's preference for faithful, committed partners and deepening their aversion to those who are not. This is why casual intimacy can leave some women feeling unexpectedly vulnerable, not because they made a mistake in judgment, but because their biology responded exactly as it was designed to. The brain does not distinguish between a partner you have chosen for life and one you met last week. It responds to the chemistry. And the chemistry, in women, is calibrated toward attachment.
Understanding what oxytocin actually does is not a reason to feel fragile. It is a reason to feel less confused. If you have ever felt disproportionately attached after physical intimacy, you were not weak. You were not naive. You were not failing at being modern or unbothered or casual. You were operating inside a biological system that predates every social norm ever written about how women are supposed to feel after sex. Research confirms that affectionate behavior after sex, cuddling, talking, gentle physical presence, is directly associated with higher relationship satisfaction. The 40-minute window after intimacy is not incidental. It is when the bonding system is most active, most open, and most responsive to how a partner shows up. This means something practical. What happens after matters as much as what happens during. The presence or absence of warmth in that window is being registered by a system designed to ask a single question: is this person safe to attach to? Oxytocin does not make women irrational. It makes them precise. It is a sophisticated instrument measuring emotional safety, consistency, and trustworthiness, and translating that measurement into feeling. The woman who catches feelings is not betraying herself. She is listening to a system that has kept humans bonded, protected, and connected for hundreds of thousands of years. The only thing that failed her was never being told that the system existed in the first place.